So, if you were with us last week for the pretty passionate live stream, then you'll know that one of the biggest questions that came up was, can you trust YouTube certified mechanics? And we all know the YouTube certification is more or less like a joke. It's not anything real, right? Of course, you can get, genuinely YouTube certified, but that has nothing to do with being a mechanic or anything. It's just something that's really reserved for like celebrities or once you reach a certain subscriber count. It's just a way for people to know that this is the person, celebrity or whatever. It's their authentic account. It's actually them versus like somebody controlling it through AI or an assistant or something like that. However, the big question that came up really for us was, can you trust YouTube certified mechanics? Because most of the time, and let's just call them YouTube mechanics, any YouTube mechanic, somebody just starting out even, can you trust them? Because a lot of the people who are making content for cars, they're self-taught. They are learning on the fly. Maybe they just watched how to do an oil change before making their oil change video. And some people were saying, yes, you can, because as long as the information is correct, as long as they're providing some sort of value in their video, then why not trust them? They're learning as they go. They're probably only one step ahead of you. What's the problem? And then the flip side, you have people saying, only people who are certified in the trade should make these type of videos. Only people who've gone through the traditional um, method or steps to become a mechanic should be the ones to make this type of content. And let's see over here. We got Buck Nasty is saying that yeah, backyard mechanics, absolutely. So call it what you want, but basically a self-taught, a DIYer, if you will, is what we're going to reference. You've seen the memes all on over social media saying, my friend can do it cheaper, or I know somebody who can do it cheaper. And that's essentially what it is with the times kind of being the way that they are and prices of everything going up, a lot more people are starting to look to YouTube videos on how to do simple things, right? Maybe they don't want to do a full-blown valve cover or a head gasket, but maybe they want to do something simple as an oil change or a spark plug change, fluid flushes, if you will. Maybe they want to do that type of stuff because they don't necessarily want to pay upwards of $200 to $300 an hour, depending on where you're taking your car. And, there's always like an upcharge, right? It's like, you could take your car in for like an oil change and they're like, oh, your windshield wipers need to be replaced, right? It could be something as small as that, or it's, you take your car in for an oil change and they find out that there's metal in the oil. So a lot of people are a little skeptical when it comes to taking their car to the mechanic because things like that can happen. Whether the mechanic on the other side is being truthful or not, that's a completely different story, right? Sometimes you get good ones. I think it's being more common nowadays that you do find good ones, and every now and then you still find the person who's always just trying to make an upsell. And what I'll say to this about, YouTube mechanics, because there are some very popular ones here on YouTube in the BMW community. And let me see here if I can pull them all up for us here. And a lot of them, I don't know very many. And this is more specifically for DIY. So there's some people out there who are vloggers who will probably do product reviews or do like a DIY here and there. Somebody who kind of comes or falls into this category, I would think of, we talked about him last week, is Thick Whips. Not somebody that you typically go for a full-blown DIY, but somebody who will wrench on his own car, kind of highlight some things to keep in mind of when you're doing the project, but then mostly kind of like a review before and after or something to that extent. And so let's see here. I'll pull up a few that we have. And I don't know if all of these, I know some of them are. And then I'll pull up some generic ones later on, like not necessarily related to BMW. But if I were to say my top three, the top three that I go for when it comes to installation videos, if you will, the top three are going to be Keys Motorsports. We already know this. Keys is one of the pioneers when it came to really expanding the BMW community on YouTube in terms of DIYs. He wasn't necessarily the first, but in terms of expanding it, making it a little bit more mainstream, putting more information out there, because I think they had more access to cars, so they were able to put more cars out there versus people like myself. We have one car for a few years, and so we're on that car for quite a while. Versus him, I think what helped him is that he started with a pretty popular car. He started out with the F30, and then he got an M3, and then I think because there were other people in the area that were letting him work on the car, he had access to all these other cars. So that's what really helped him explode. But the person who was, I would say, one of the pioneers is actually Justin, because I think they've done an interview, and Brian over at Keys Motorsports has even said that Justin was one of his inspirations for starting his YouTube channel. So Justin was really one of the first people to start doing DIYs on BMWs. And it started from, I believe it's his E90, and then it evolved into his F30. Again, I don't necessarily believe he is a formal mechanic. And I don't believe Brian is either, from what I remember. However, Vehicular DIY, I believe he is a formal DIYer. I mean, a formal mechanic. And his videos are spectacular. The amount of detail that he provides. The thing that I like about his videos is he will angle the camera in such a way that when he's wrenching on the car, his hands aren't in the way. So you can actually see where the wrench goes, where the sockets are hooking up to, the sockets that are allowed in the area, how tight it is. And he's very descriptive where he's actually doing the DIYs. So some people are like, do a wide shot and then their body's in the way, their head's in the way, their hands are in the way. But him, even if there's a particular moment in his videos where his hand gets in the way, he's very descriptive. And like when his hand, when the person wrenches on the car, it's like there's the shot just before the hand gets there, and then there's the shot when the thing comes off. So you can clearly see what he's talking about, even if his hand is in the way. But for the most part, his hand is out of the way. You can actually see the tool turning exactly where it's supposed to go, what obstructions are in the way. And that's why I really like his videos, because for the most part, if he didn't talk, you would still know what to do. If all he did was maybe put like the torque specs up there, you would be able to still do your DIY in, with just the visuals alone. So I do really recommend his video. Let's see here. So good timing for us over here, because Buck Nasty is saying that he trusts his Vehicular DIY, and he said that he helped him get his E90 right. So Specialized Duck, hey Fritz, I love your channel. Thank you very much. I hope that I can kind of get on these three guys' level someday. And thank you for the support. We had one suggestion here. Buck Nasty's coming to auto repair guys. Is that the one that we covered last week? Let's see here. I think that's the name. Looks different. No, this isn't the one that we covered last. Oh, but I know who this is though. I know who this is. Yeah, this is also another good one. This guy covers pretty much like everything, all like the odd jobs, the loose ends that nobody covers, the stuff that only people who've owned the car for a long time really run into. This guy covers. So a lot of people will do stuff like installing an exhaust, installing an intake. This guy will be like, how to replace your window motor and regulator, how to replace the, like some weird bushing or gasket. Yeah, this guy is pretty good. The only thing that I wish he did was he breaks his videos up into 2 sets. I believe it's him. I'm just kind of looking at the lengths of his videos I believe that it's him. The only thing that I wish he did instead was he will break up. Sometimes he'll break his video up into 3 parts. So it will be the removal, the install, and then the comparison of the old part to the new part, or like kind of things to look out for or tips to look out for. And so that could be, actually, now I think about it, 3 to 4 videos right there. It would be the install, the removal, the parts, and then like tips on the job. So it'd be 4 different videos. And if he doesn't create a playlist, it can be a little scattered through YouTube to track it down if you don't know exactly where to look. And so I wish that was just all condensed into one video. However, he does provide the information out there. So yeah, that's another good one. Oh my goodness. There's another one that we talked about last week. Maybe that's the name. I don't know. This isn't it. There was another one. You know what? I know how to find it. So yeah, so those guys are genuine mechanics. FCP Euro, they're mechanics. Here, ask the car experts. I believe this guy and the other people that tool on the cars, they're actually mechanics as well. And so I would say it doesn't hurt to get your information from a variety of places. You can, if you feel more comfortable getting it from a genuine mechanic, you're just going to have to hope that somebody who is a mechanic is willing to make videos on YouTube. And if you do find a mechanic who does, and you get most of the technical information from them, it doesn't hurt to go somebody like Justin or Brian and go on their videos, because when a lot of the people who are mechanics who are working on their cars, they're working on the car and filming. So a lot of the times the camera's just locked on a tripod. So you might not get the angle that you necessarily need to see in order to accomplish the task. So you might be able to combine the 2 videos of, say, like Brian, I know that he's a videographer. The videographer can actually in real time move his position in relation to Brian in order to give the viewer, us, a better insight to what's actually being done, like how your hands need to be positioned, where the tool is actually going to go, what obstructions are in the way. And so it doesn't hurt to, get your information from 2 different sources here. It's not like you're taking your car to a mechanic and you're having or 2 different mechanics, and you're having one mechanic do half of the job and then another mechanic do another half, right? From 2 different shops. You're doing it yourself. So it's not necessarily that you trust the other person who you're just getting the visual from. They just have the better angle that you can potentially look along with as your mechanic is vocalizing it. And sometimes that does happen depending on the job. Sometimes the person with the wrong information has a better camera angle for you to visualize what you're going to do prior to the job, letting you know, do you have the right tools, or do you have to purchase a special tool, or is it beyond your level of comfortability in doing this job? And I think that's what I think that's the big takeaway when it comes to trusting so-called YouTube mechanics. Okay, so Buck Nasty. So exactly. So that's that is apparently the right one. Auto repair guy says that he breaks it down. Let's see. We have another suggestion here from CR. Let's see here. Did I get that right? There we go. Let's look at. Is it this person? Eurocars. Let's see here. Mechanic car DIY. I don't know about this person, clearly. CR, maybe you can give me some insight since you're the one recommending. Zeiten. Zeiten. Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't know about this person specifically, if he's a genuine mechanic or not. But I would say that it's rare that you're going to find somebody who's a true mechanic who's been tooling all day and then will on the weekend or on their off hours tool on the car that you have. It's not necessarily impossible because people have done it. And we have another recommendation here. Oh, I know this guy. Yeah, I've seen his stuff before. Very informative, I will say. Yeah, so this guy is kind of like what I was talking about. It's rare to have somebody at his capacity because at this point he has his own shop now. Like he has his own full-blown shop. I think he's the owner. So he's not necessarily the mechanic. He's the owner, and I know that he's knowledgeable, but not a lot of people are in his position. In the instance, like he's the owner, right? So he can hire somebody to film him doing whatever he wants to do. If you're just a mechanic at a shop, you have to do the job that the owner or the customer brings in, right? You're kind of subject to that. Not a lot of people, and he's the only one, if you think about it, that we talked about who is in that position of everyone that we've talked about so far. It's like I said, it's not impossible because there are people from all walks of life. It's just uncommon that you're going to find a person in his position that has your car that's going to do the exact job that you need. The more specific details that you want from your content creator, the less likely it is to happen, right? Or the less likely it is that you'll find all of these things. It's like working your way down a funnel in terms of anything that you want, right? Like if you want a car specced out, right? You start, you say, I want a BMW, right? There are a ton of BMWs. And then you say, okay, I want a 3 Series. Okay, well, Then that takes the 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 7s. That takes them all out. That takes out the X's and everything. So now you have a far less selection. And then you say something like, okay, I want manual transmission. I want only rear wheel drive. I want it to have carbon interior, and I want, something better than the base model seats. The selection gets less, your ability to find something that meets all those standards becomes less and less. And same thing here, here when it comes to trying to find somebody that you can trust on YouTube. I would say don't put all your hopes that there's one video or one creator that's going to create everything and give you all the answers that you need for your particular job. There's no shame in getting bits and pieces of information from different sources. Let's see here. I missed someone right here. Okay, some of this stuff is going to be stuff for our Q&A session later. But I would say it's fine. It's fine to trust YouTube mechanics, right? Because you're not necessarily solely dependent on just their information. You're dependent on the visuals. You're dependent on, some videos, they will say the right thing. They'll include the right torque spec. They'll show you how to do it correctly. And sometimes the other ones, they'll do some right and some wrong, but you just have to pull the information out of it, right? And I'll be the first one to admit, like, the stuff that I've done, like, I'm not a certified mechanic by any means, no formal education, training, or anything. It's literally, I watched Justin's video, I watched Brian's video, and I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I want to take my shot at it too. The 2 series is a little bit from the 3s. Maybe I can provide a slightly different camera angle from them, some slight different nuance that they didn't necessarily cover, or just give the person a different perspective, because I'm totally sure that they're going to watch one of their videos. So what can I add to that? Well, when they created their video, as they're doing the DIY, there's only one camera angle that they can set. Even if Brian's videographer is moving in real time, every second that he wrenches, it's only one angle, one camera angle at a time. And so what can I do on my end? Or if you're looking to do this yourself, what can you do that's different from everybody else? Sometimes people will say, here's a trick that I learned, or here's something that's helpful when you're trying to loosen this bolt, but their hand's in the way, or another car part is in the way, or maybe they didn't get a good shot of the tool coming in, or them actually wrenching the tool. That's something that you could highlight in your video to put 2 and 2 together. And so it's not that if they watch Justin's video, if they watch Brian's video, Jamie's, Ask the Car Experts, the Car Guys channel, it doesn't mean that they won't watch yours. They're just going to combine them all. And all of that information is just going to help the community grow as a whole. So I do recommend that if you're looking to do this, give it a shot. Start out on your phone, very basic. It can get into all the tight areas. Just get a light, right? Start off with a light and then go from there. I would say it's kind of the new way that I would say Cars and Coffee used to be before it started to turning into a bunch of takeovers, sideshow type of events where you could go to a Cars and Coffee, and if you're having an issue, one of the seasoned guys there will say, go ahead, pop the hood, and let me show you, right? I'm not going to do it for you right here in the parking lot, but let me just show you, like, okay, you need to undo this, this, and then when you get to this part, pay attention right here. Now it just becomes too risky. Some people aren't really respectful when it comes to other people's cars. It turns into a whole thing. The police come. And so I feel that the events that were Cars and Coffee are starting to kind of dwindle away, if you will. We got another suggestion right here from Buck Nasty. This one is 0 to 60. I think I've seen this person's videos before too. The logo looks familiar. I need to see the person's face. Oh my goodness. Okay, well. Is this real? Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, that's a story right there. I do remember this person. Yeah, he does do DIYs. I don't know if he's a formal mechanic or not. He's not necessarily one of the go-tos. It's just like if I'm doing a job, I put it in search, and if his videos pop up, I'm fairly comfortable that I'll get something out of it, right? I think with him, if I'm remembering it correctly, when it comes to his videos, he's excellent in, like, I don't want to say easy, but I want to say like stuff that goes according to plan. But for instance, I think I was watching his video on like how to do the rear diff. So when it comes to like popping out the axles, it's not necessarily so clean cut when you don't have the proper tool if you're just using a pry bar. So when he has to do something a little bit more intensive, maybe like with two hands and exert quite a bit of force, he will do a jump cut. So it'll be like, here, put the pry bar here, and then just pull. He will say that, and then in the next shot, it will just be done. He doesn't actually show you like it coming off. So and certain things like that, there is a risk, right? There is a risk of you damaging your filming equipment, right? So there could be a variety of reasons why he doesn't want you to see that. Maybe the camera, in my particular case, in this particular video that I'm referencing, maybe it got out of focus, maybe the camera tipped over, maybe, you know, there could be a variety of reasons why in that particular case it was a jump cut. But I've just noticed that to be a common theme with his videos. However, like I said, I can pull the tip from that video prior to it coming off, where he says, you got to angle the pry bar here, and then this is how you leverage it out. And so there's still something to be learned from his video, even though I don't get everything from his video. Let's see here. Buck Nasty said, tread lightly with him. Oh, you're the one who suggested him. But yeah, I don't know what he did. I don't follow him regularly. But I mean, working on, maybe putting on maybe taking off a catalytic converter. I don't know where he's located at even. Proprietary information. He said he got his laptop, the stolen laptop. Maybe there was some proprietary information. Maybe he got some early access to some products, and that's what caused the whole thing. I'm not too sure. So with that said, I think if you have a more open approach when it comes to YouTube mechanics, YouTube certified mechanics, whatever you want to call it, then I think you can trust them, right? You can trust that what they're filming is actually what happened. You can take away some tips from people who maybe aren't able to get the right camera angle, right? Sometimes people do everything one-handed, and they're wrenching with one hand, and so they need their other hand. So that's the only way that they can film their video. And so you can take away the tips from them that they provide you, and combine that with the videography of some other channels and combine it. You don't have to get it all from one person, and nobody's going to shame you if you do it. Just as long as you get the job done safely and your car runs reliably for the foreseeable future, then I think it's worth it. If you feel confident, and I think it's also a good way to assess if you can take on this job, because if you see a bunch of professional mechanics do the job all the time, it's going to look easy because these people do a dozen of these cars a day, right? They do it, blindfolded. They make it look so easy. However, when you see a first timer do it, or somebody who's maybe only done it like 2 or 3 times, you're like, should I really do that? Or here's the flip side. Sometimes there's a specialty tool that's required, right? The professionals have done this job so many times. They're like, you're supposed to use the specialty tool, but you don't need to. Here's the trick. And then they go, bloop, thing comes off. Then you see the backyard DIYer take the shot at it and try to apply the same technique with the generic tool. And you're like, okay, even if I spend for the specialty tool, it's going to make my life easier because I got to get to work on Monday. And there's no way that if this thing fails, when I start taking it apart on Friday night, that I'll get the tool in time. And if I damage this part, then I can't drive my car. It's like, okay, I'll just buy the specialty tool because I'm still saving money. And if I don't need it again, I can sell it. Or if this is a specialty tool that can be repurposed for another job, then by all means, you have it for a future job. So that will also let you know when the mechanic says, hey, you don't really need the specialty tool if you, as a beginner, need the specialty tool. Because the other thing that came up was torque wrenches and torque spec. The person commenting said professionals, they don't need torque wrenches. They don't use torque wrenches. They don't need a torque in sequence and stuff like that because they know what's right. They know how to do things by feel. And, sometimes torque sequence, it's a suggestion, but it's not a mandatory thing. And I mean, I suppose depending on what you're talking about, that could be true. However, as a DIYer, as somebody who's not doing this professionally, you don't, like we don't know, myself even, I don't know when the torque sequence is absolutely necessary. If say, for example, you're doing suspension, right? You're going to say maybe you're doing suspension and brakes, but you want to do suspension first, right? Do you really need to torque your wheels in the star pattern? And do you even really need to torque your wheels if all that you're going to do is just drop the wheels and then pick up the other side, do the suspension, drop it down, and then do the brakes? Then in that case, I would say no, because you're not driving the car. You're just kind of, just lifting it up and putting it down. You just kind of need it snug and put on some wheel chocks. You'll be fine. But in the case of like the valve cover, then yeah, you should put it in sequence. Yeah, there's tricks to it. If you do your wheels and then you're going to drive, Soul Slinger was on here saying that you should torque them in the star pattern so that the rotors don't warp. It really depends. And when even if you are a professional and even if you know exactly what 10, 20, 50, 100, 250 foot-pounds, Newton meters feels like, how are you going to describe that to the person who's going to try it for the first time? Do you trust that they can dial in that exact feel, that their senses are so attuned as yours as a professional that they'll know exactly when to stop? Or is it just in everyone's best interest, because you never know who's watching it, is to give them something that is easily repeatable, like set your torque wrench to 140 Newton meters and click it in the star pattern. It's repeatable. There's a certain margin of error that is acceptable, because if you're plus or minus 140 Newton meters by 4%, it's fine. The wheels aren't going to come off. If you torque it in the star pattern versus if you don't, the risk reward ratio, I mean, does it really hurt that you put it in the star pattern? No. Does it take a little bit more time? Sure. Is it less likely to warp the rotors? Sure. So that's the other thing too, is just feel free to get your information from whoever you want and get it from a lot of sources if you're trying it out for the first time. You don't have to get it all from the same person. However, one thing that you'll want to ask yourself is, when you're looking at the person on the other side of the camera, the creator, you're going to ask yourself, is this easily replicatable? Meaning, can people easily take off these bolts in this order? Or do they have to take something off to get better access to it? Is it easy to repeat torque wrench? Or is the person just saying, until you feel, until you hear, until, you know, the piece does this little motion? That's not easily repeatable. This person had, you know, years of experience, and we don't have that level of attentiveness when it comes to this. So just combine it. Maybe the person who's the true mechanic shows you exactly how to do it. Maybe they don't provide torque specs. You can go to another video for that. So that's just my 2-piece on it. And I think if you're looking to create content when it comes to cars, that's how you can build up your credibility in this space. It's just, you know, if you're a DIYer such as myself, own up to it. You know, I'm not ashamed of it. Like, I don't do this every day for work. If people find value in my video, then I'm thankful. If they don't, they'll let me know, and I can use it as something to remember in order to make the next video better, right? Maybe I didn't put my hands in the right place. Maybe I didn't use the right tool, or maybe I didn't explain something all that well. I can always provide a comment to elaborate, you know, the confusion. And then if a similar situation pops up in a future video, then I'll just use the criticism to make the next one better. So don't feel that everything has to be perfect. Just show what you learned, right? And if it's not everything, then it's not everything. But I'll be the first one to tell you, you know, you have my full support for whatever it's worth. That give it a shot if it's what you want. And if the people give you a hard time in the comment section, you can always block or delete the comments. Or if you feel that based off of the comments and some real world criticism, right? Don't always rely on the comment section to tell you that if a video is good or not, right? Some people, they're just always going to be negative. Get some real world insight on a video. And if you feel that it's really doing a disservice to people, like say for instance, I guess like what's an easy one? Oh my goodness, I saw it. So I did see this at the shop. Somebody did their own brakes, and they put the pads in backwards, and they put anti-seize on their lug bolts. So if you make a video like that, then in that case, that video truly is a disservice to people on the platform, and you can put that video on private. And then it doesn't mean necessarily that you have to delete the video. You could always use it as something like a, you know, before and after, or like your progress, right? You could say like, you know, I made such a newbie mistake that I did this, but this is how far I've come. And to tell you the truth, a lot of people will criticize you for doing something like that, but nobody was born, like nobody came out into the world and knew how to wrench on cars. Nobody knew that you torque in the star pattern automatically until it was explained to them. They didn't know that you were supposed to or not supposed to put anti-seize on this bolt depending on what it does. Like nobody just knows this stuff. So don't be so hard on yourself. You'll eventually learn and get better. That's all that I can truly say. And I apologize 0 to 60 if he ever sees this. I did not mean to have his mugshot up there the whole time. But you know what? He did it to himself. Oh, they got a new pressure washer. Oh, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked over here. I'm kind of in the market for pressure washers. So I got a little distracted with that one. Let's see here. So let me get back to some of the questions that we had up here. Let's see here. JC, Justin has the best edition ever. Yeah, Justin is really an inspiration to a lot of people, I would say. In the BMW community, I know he has an FRS, but he also does like photography and stuff. Like, I think being self-taught, I believe he's self-taught, and if he is, he's done a tremendous job for it. But I mean, even if he isn't, like, even if he went through the trades, like, nobody comes out that polished as soon as you graduate from anything, right? People graduate as doctors, mechanics, nurses, teachers, lawyers, you name it. But they're not that good when they come out, right? They're trained, they have the formal training, but they're not spectacular, fantastic, amazing, right? It's not until you get experience that, you know, and unless you dedicate your time to your trade, that it'll get better, right? Like I said, you know, Jamie, even if I remember right, like, he's only had his garage over the last couple of years, right? He didn't always have it. And so these people took the time to look at the things that they did well, took a look at the things that needed improvement, made the improvements, and they are where they are today. And that's why people trust them so much, right? So let's see here. Oh, Fatal Ostracies. How did I miss this one? Let's see here. Day Off DIY. I have not seen his videos before. What does he work on? Oh, well, I don't have an E46. That's why. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. You got E92. Okay. Well, I don't have these cars. That's probably why I haven't seen his videos. But, okay. So we got another one over here. Day Off DIY. Alex, what do you think about RK Tunes front mount intakes for the F87 M2? They're nice. They're nice looking. The only thing is that they're tucked away for the most part. The only issue that I really have with front mount intercoolers is that if you ever need to take them out in terms of like doing some other service to the car, it's just a pain. I'm not sure. Let's see here. Let's get rid of these. Let's take a look at them actually. Now that's the GN55. Oh. S55 intakes. Honestly, the thing that you really do get with front mount intakes is the sound. It's easier to hear it because you don't have it muffled by the engine bay. Huh. Where is it? Oh. Oh, I didn't see it. Oh my goodness. Huh. How come I can't see the actual pipes? Okay, so I'm not sure exactly. The thing that I wanted to see is the orientation to the pipes. Like, if the pipes have a coupler that's relatively short, and if you disengage it with the hose clamp or whatever, and it doesn't really interfere with whatever else that you have, like if it leads through the ducting system near the headlights, and then it kind of terminates there so that you can work on whatever you need to work on, then I think that it's fine. But if you need to take out that whole thing every single time, it's going to get old pretty quick. You'll get over the sound of it really quick. The performance gains will be very similar to like what you get with anything with a high flow filter and maybe like intake scoops. But if you work on your car a lot, disassembling that will get old very quick, because I can tell you this right now, like the M carbon strut brace, this thing, every time you need to work on your car, it's a pain to take out. Like this whole thing, it's like 2, 4, depending on if you have this upper portion up here connected, it can be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 bolts that you have to do every time. And then sometimes you have to do the aluminum brace. Versus if you had like the regular one, like on the non-M cars. If you have the M car, then this is just what it comes standard with. But if you had a non-M car and you didn't retrofit it, the regular brace that comes on it, it's you don't always need to undo it for like simple stuff. Like here, they did a pretty good job because the engine cover, it doesn't go over the engine cover. However, you can see it here. It kind of obstructs it right here. You can snake it out, but you do clip it every time. Here, not so much. It's very easy to get this out in comparison to this. Like you still have to be careful, but it's tough. The other thing too is this looks slightly different. I know what they did. They reorientated the coolant tank, because this cap, this is normally flipped. This cap, it's right underneath the brace. So that's another thing. If you need to fill up your coolant, like think about it, if you're on the side of the road and you're like, oh my gosh, my coolant is low. All I got is a little bit of water. I can just drop it in. You got to undo the strut brace to get to it. So let's see here. I've got it. I said N55. What happened? Yeah, see, so this is what it's really like. That carbon brace comes around and over. And so if your intake is what I'm saying is, so like if your intake for the F87, if it terminates right about, and the chassis is going to be the same. So if it kind of terminates right here where this brace is, if it terminates right here and then it just has the additional piping to run and there's just like a silicone coupler there, then I think that that's fine. But if you got to take out the entire intake tubing every single time you got to do something in this area, that's going to be a pain. You'll probably regret doing it. I kind of regret doing that strut brace. It was fun when I did it. It was kind of like I wonder if I could do this without too much crazy modification. And all I really had to do was cut the upper portion of the fender right here, not the fender itself, but see this ribbed inner portion. I just had to cut a little bit of that underneath where this plastic cover is. So you can't even really see where I cut. I did have to cut the plastic guard in order to get the bolts where I needed to. Oh, wait, did I need to cut it? I'm actually not 100% sure because I think it kind of tucks. The guard tucks right where the bolt goes. So I don't even think I really needed to cut these either. If I did, it was in a non-visible place. It's really not that obvious. So it was kind of like a fun little challenge, but now that I have to do it like other things like the belt tensioner, I do kind of regret doing it. And even this, I wouldn't do it because to get the cover off every time, you got to undo this. Honestly, out of all the suspension stuff that I've done, the strut brace is like the least impactful. I would say if you want to get your bang for the buck, do coilovers. And then if you're like, oh, well, you know, if I do the coilovers, then should I do the sway bars? No. Do your coilovers and upgrade to Swift springs. Call Swift, ask them what they would recommend, put in the order. Do coilovers with Swift springs. That's going to take care of, I feel like, 70 to 80% of the people out there. Not everybody's going to track their car, and not everybody who tracks their car wants to go full blown or full bore suspension. Some people just track just to track, you know, just to go fast and maneuver the car and have a little bit of fun. Then if you want to go beyond that, I'll say do SPL arms. The lower control arms and the thrust arms are going to be the most impactful. Tie rods, not so much. The rear suspension, not so much. If you catch it on sale, it's great. But yeah, for the sake of maintenance, find out where those tubes terminate and make your decision from there. If you don't work on your car, I guess it doesn't matter. Let's see here. JC is saying, why do you never change the transmission mount? It's not that you don't need to. You certainly can. It's just like you don't like at this stage in the game, they're probably still good. I wouldn't necessarily say that you should upgrade to poly unless you track your car, because it is very noticeable. It does vibrate, but it does feel very solid. If you do, go with I feel like this is the best for a daily, the UEC transmission mounts. Oh no, these aren't it. Don't go with poly is my recommendation. If you daily your car, do not. Oh, it's Rogue, not UEC. Sorry. That's right. Rogue Engineering. It's just, I think it's just rubber. Yeah, it's a harder rubber. So the shifts are improved, but it's not going to be as stiff, and there's not going to be as much vibrations when it in comparison to poly. So this is what I would, and I've changed mine. However, so I've done this on my old E36, and when I put these on, I noticed it. I was like, oh my gosh. But then that car at the time was like getting to 20 years old. My car, when I got it and when I did these bushings, the car was only like 15. It wasn't, maybe like 4 years old. And the car had under 30,000 miles. So I didn't notice it that much. Maybe depending on the mileage that you have on your car, you will notice it. It's more noticeable for manual transmission cars because you're actually shifting. For an automatic transmission car, I'm not sure if you're going to notice it as much because the car is going to shift for you. But yeah, that's kind of what I would, that's all that I really have to say about that. It really depends. It depends on, yeah, age of the car, how much mileage that it has, and how worn your current bushings are. Tamar or T1 M4R. What's up, man? You are the reason I'm so comfortable working on my M235i. I just did my charge pipe and an oil change with your tutorials. Oh, awesome. Those videos are actually really old, so I'm glad they're still useful. Some of those videos, I feel like, oh my goodness, like I kind of wish that I could redo them. But thank you. Definitely videos that I was making when I was still learning, like some videos like even from a year ago, I'm like, I'm pretty comfortable with that being up there for a couple of years or whatnot. The only thing that I kind of criticize from, it's different. My beginning videos, like, oh my goodness, I wish I had better tools. I wish I could explain things better. Versus the videos that I make now, I'm like, oh, I wish I had a better angle for this. I wish I had better lighting for this. It's more of the production value now that I'm more concerned with. More so on like, I always do think how I mentioned earlier of, if somebody's watching this for the first time and they've never done it before, is it going to be of good service to them? And so what I critique back then is, did I have enough information to explain it correctly? I feel that I have enough to get by now for people who are doing it for the first time. However, it's like, did I properly serve them in the video production of it? So thank you for that. Alex, it's for the N55. For the N55, do you need a upgraded high pressure fuel pump or OEM high pressure fuel pump for the port injection? So I haven't done this yet. So I do not know. I would say, I guess it really depends on how far you want to take your car. If you're, I mean, you can always get more power with a high pressure fuel pump. So if you really want to eventually like go all the way, then, you know, there's no harm in getting it now versus later. MHD has an OTS tune for the N55 Stage 2 full E85. Would this be a good idea to do with full bolt-on health-wise for the high pressure fuel pump, low pressure fuel pump? For a second, I thought that was a capital I. Low pressure fuel pump and high pressure fuel pump. I mean, anytime you add performance, you are putting on wear on the components. I would say you just got to do your research for this. So I have not done any of this stuff on my car. I don't know if I will. So I don't have the knowledge to give you on this particular topic. Sorry. And that's another thing, is if I don't know the answer to it, I'm going to tell you straight up that I don't know the answer to it. Let's look it up. E85 requires a fuel pump that's compatible with the fuel type. Some design elements that make a fuel pump. Well, this is a generic AI answer. You must ensure your fuel pump is compatible with this fuel type. Okay. Let's see here. Do I need to upgrade fuel pump? I run map 5 with about 4 gallons of E85. Okay, so this is kind of, your high pressure fuel pump is the issue and needs to get an upgraded. Okay, so high pressure, it seems like. Limited flow. Okay, so some people are saying that the high pressure side is the one that needs to be replaced more so than the low. So, okay. So yeah, so I would kind of look at this stuff. And hopefully that gets you in the right direction. For the manual, the shifter slowly starts to shake a little harder when they wear more. I'm almost 90K. And the transmission mounts seem to be fine. Yeah, sometimes it's not just the mounts, it's also the rubber bushings inside the shifter carrier that those little clips go into. So you can replace those out for nylon ones. You can also replace the rear bushing that the carrier slots into in the back, the pointy end. You can upgrade that one to poly, and that will all stiffen it up. So if you upgrade to the nylon and the poly bushings while you're there, you might as well do the rubber mounts from Rogue Engineering. And I like, for the N55, I like the Turner Motorsports short shifter. So hopefully for those of us with the manual transmission, that helps you guys out. I would say, like, if you have a manual transmission car, that's like the first thing you got to do. Forget a tune. I mean, of course, if your wheels and tires need to be addressed, if anything that makes the car run needs to be addressed, take care of that. Maintenance stuff, take care of that. But the first mod, do the short shifter. You'll never regret it. You will never regret it. That would be my recommendation. So with that, I hope what we shared here today was helpful for all of you. Alex, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to give you the information that you needed here, but I hope that I got you started in the right direction. And if there's anything else that I can help you guys with, feel free to leave it in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram, or I think TikTok does DMs now. So if you feel comfortable sending one there, send it to me at VroomTuber. I'm more than happy to, adjust what we have here on the live streams, because all of this is for you guys. Whatever you think is going to be the most helpful, let's do it. With that, I hope all of you have a good rest of your day as well as the rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing all of you next Tuesday.